Imagine this, the world as we know it shuts down. The lights go out, your phone dies, and suddenly every single convenience you never thought about is gone. No Wi-Fi, no supermarkets, no calling up a pizza delivery. It's just you, whatever you've stashed, and whatever you know about surviving off the grid. This isn't just a quick blackout. This is doomsday mode. Let's walk through the 10 horrible truths you'll need to face in a long-term blackout scenario. Each one is grim, a bit twisted, and just a little too real. 1. Water. Nowhere water security isn't something most people think about. Turn the faucet and voila, fresh water. But what if I told you that most cities only have a 1-2 day water supply backup? No electricity means no pumping, no purifying, no taps working. Within days, city reservoirs would be stagnant, and your clean drinking water would be, well, non-existent. Now think about it. The average person needs at least 1 gallon of water per day just for drinking. That doesn't even cover hygiene or cooking. And without clean water, you're looking at diseases like dysentery and cholera. Yes, the kinds we thought we left back in the Oregon Trail days. Some prepping tips. Start with rain barrels, if they're legal in your area. Crazy that collecting rain is illegal in some places, right? Learn to make water filters out of charcoal, sand, and gravel. Surprisingly easy, yet incredibly effective in emergencies. And finally, purify with tablets or boil whenever you can. 2. Food rations. Forget the expiration date. When the power goes out, the first place most people will head is the grocery store. It's estimated that in just 24 hours, store shelves would be cleared out in a crisis. And even if you manage to snag some goodies, food spoilage becomes a major problem without refrigeration. Fresh produce, gone in days. Meat? Forget it unless you know how to smoke or cure it. Let's get real here. Most of us don't have enough food on hand to last a week, let alone months. To survive long-term, stockpile items with a multi-year shelf life. Think rice, beans, powdered milk, oats, foods that require little cooking and are calorie-dense. Canned goods are your friends too, and as a dark survival hack, consider rationing small portions from day one to stretch your supplies as much as possible. 3. Sewage and sanitation, or the lack thereof. Here's a fun fact. Your toilet isn't magic. It doesn't just whoosh your waste away to Neverland. Sewage systems run on electricity. When that's out, sewage pumps and treatment plants stop working. After about a week, pipes and septic systems in urban areas start to back up. Yes, that means right back up into your home. What does this mean for you? Welcome to DIY sanitation. If you're in a pinch, digging a latrine, think camping but with extra steps, is a must. Also, stock up on garbage bags and bleach for makeshift toilets if you're in an apartment. And here's the kicker. Failing to properly dispose of waste can cause a whole host of diseases, including dysentery and typhoid, which can spread like wildfire in cramped spaces. Survival isn't glamorous, folks. It's all about staying a few steps ahead of the stink. 4. Medical care on hard mode in a true blackout scenario. Hospitals can only run on generators for so long. Eventually, life-saving medical equipment, refrigeration for medicines, and sterilization tools stop working. For people with chronic illnesses, this is terrifying. In the US alone, millions rely on insulin, heart medications, and other drugs that require regular access and refrigeration. Without pharmacies, your painkillers, antibiotics, and prescriptions dry up fast. Stocking a first aid kit with the essentials, bandages, antiseptics, and a broad-spectrum antibiotic if you can get it legally, is wise. Even a simple infection left untreated could become deadly. There's also a big case to be made for learning some basic herbal remedies. Plants like garlic, oregano, and echinacea have antibacterial properties, which could come in handy if you're ever in a medical pinch. 5. Law and order. Out the window when society breaks down, so do the rules. During the 1977 blackout in NYC, over 1,600 stores were looted, and 1,000 fires were set in just one day. Imagine that, but nationwide. Without law enforcement, desperation and crime will rise fast. Security becomes a personal responsibility. Self-defense training, owning protective gear, and establishing secure perimeters around your property are all options. Some folks swear by having a guard dog or two, and let's be real, they'd probably be better at spotting an intruder than most of us. Setting up early warning systems, think makeshift alarms with cans or bells, can buy you precious seconds. Just remember, desperate times make desperate people, and protecting yourself becomes more than just a personal choice. 6. No more easy cooking. Welcome to cold cuisine. We rely on stoves, ovens, and microwaves without even thinking about it. But without electricity or gas? You're cooking over open flames or a camp stove, and even propane canisters run out. Imagine every meal involving a cold can of beans or reheated soup over a campfire. Not ideal, right? Alternative cooking methods are crucial. Solar ovens, yes, they exist, and they work, use sunlight to slow cook food. Rocket stoves are another off-grid option that use minimal wood. But for real long-term survival, knowing how to build a simple clay or brick oven could be life-changing. Oh, and stock up on salt and seasonings. You'll miss those little luxuries when they're gone. 7. Communication blackout. No calls, texts, or social media. We've gotten used to instant communication. Texting, calling, posting. But when the power grid fails, cell towers eventually shut down. In an extended blackout, your phone will be nothing more than a paperweight. No news, no GPS, no way to find out what's happening outside your bubble. That's why people who are serious about prepping rely on ham radios. They're low-tech but extremely reliable. Even in the worst conditions, amateur radio operators around the world can communicate with each other. In fact, during disasters, ham radio operators are often the only source of information between communities. Learning even the basics of radio communication could mean the difference between help and helplessness. 8. Home heating or freezing winter survival without heating isn't just uncomfortable, it can be life-threatening. Think about it. In some areas, winter temperatures plunge well below freezing. Hypothermia becomes a real danger without a way to keep warm. You'll need to get creative if you don't have a wood stove or fireplace. Layering up, of course, is key. But insulation, your house's version of a winter jacket, matters too. Rugs on floors, blankets over windows, and heavy curtains all help trap body heat. Another hack? Body heat sharing. Sleeping in close quarters with family or friends can be the difference between warmth and a bitter, sleepless night. Also, stockpile candles, which can surprisingly raise a small room's temperature a few precious degrees. 9. Mental health will take a dive. Isolation, constant stress, and limited resources are a brutal combination. Psychologists call this cabin fever, and it can lead to paranoia, depression, and even violent behavior. In survival scenarios, even the most level-headed can struggle with the psychological toll. Keeping a sense of purpose can help maintain your sanity. Set daily goals like foraging for supplies, reading survival manuals, or even physical exercise routines. And when it comes to mental health, sometimes the little things make the biggest difference. Cards, books, musical instruments, even board games can bring a hint of normalcy and camaraderie to an otherwise bleak situation. 10. Rebuild or relocate. The long-term challenge. Finally, if it really comes down to a worst-case scenario where the blackout doesn't end, some locations just won't be sustainable. Cities especially can become death traps. Dense populations, scarce resources, and deteriorating sanitation. Without the luxuries of modern infrastructure, city dwellers may have to make the tough choice to move elsewhere. Rural areas near water sources, arable land, and forests offer better long-term survival prospects. Ideally, a small community with people skilled in farming, hunting, or carpentry would be ideal. Transitioning from a fast food lifestyle to homesteading isn't easy, but in a long-term crisis, these skills are as good as gold. Learn what you can now so that you don't become one of the people who only survives until their resources run out. So, that's your deep dive into the 10 horrific truths of surviving a long-term blackout. If this didn't shake you up a little, then congrats, you're officially hardened. Now's the time to start prepping, because it's way better to be the one with the well-stocked pantry and solar oven than the one left out in the cold with nothing but a dead smartphone. Also, don't forget the doomsday gremlin that steals all of your supplies at night. The only way to avoid him is by liking and subscribing. Kidding, but please stay safe, stay ready, and remember, survival isn't glamorous, but at least you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you prepared for the worst.